All right, well, welcome to live session. This is National University Management 400 Ethics in Law, Business and Management. And today is Tuesday, November 4th, and I am Dr. Sands. What I have teed up is to review the week 2 assignment in detail and, of course, answer any questions you may have about anything in the, course, the assignment or in the course at all. All right. Before we get started, do you have any questions?
No, not at the moment.
Okay. Okay. All right. Go ahead and take a look at the assignment. And as far as the grading for week 1, I have all the discussions graded, and I get a good jump on the assignments, which I'll have those finished up and graded tomorrow. So. All right. Well, assignment 2 is organize and create a staff memo for ethical corporate conduct. Let's see here. Okay. So the background, organizations are responsible for employee conduct. As a result, organizations can have negative consequences from unethical employee behavior. And boy, that's so true. You know, one bad apple can certainly derail a company or a department. So, um, monitoring employee conduct is vital for an organization to remain successful and maintain a positive reputation. Employees need to have a strong grasp of the company's culture. Research has found that, and culture is such a constantly moving, item, and culture can really make or break a company. A lot of times, as employees, they may love the work, but the culture just, they can't stand it. So it's important. Let's see here. Research has found that only 40% of employees always try to follow company policies and ethics, which is pretty astounding. I mean, 40% always try, and I mean, 60% do not. It's a little scary there. Man, um, and the thing is too, like where conflict will happen if you're one of the 40% that wants to do the right thing and follow the the policies, but then you got 60% that don't. So there's a good chance, if you're trying to be one of the 40%, you're going to come across one of the 60%, and that can create issues. So
Yep.
Matt, yeah, go ahead.
No, I was agreeing. I was agreeing with with
Yeah.
that. You'll probably follow everybody else, and yeah, you'll end up in the 60%.
Yeah. Managers organizational behavior and ensure the company is compliant in culture and a healthy environment. Communication is a major component for the successful organization. I remember when I was getting my MBA at Pepperdine for my ethics class, we took a field trip which is, I don't think they're there any longer, but to Nellis Prison in Las Vegas. And, one of the and this was a long time ago. So this is when we did research at the library. So, but one of the things I remember so clear as day is that was a white collar crime facility. And so we went to a big auditorium, and some of the prisoners came in, of course, pre-selected and everything. But one of the things I still remember today is good number of those individuals, they weren't at the center of the crime. They were just in this sphere, close enough to the crime that, they got implicated. So, they knew about it. Some like they knew about it, but didn't say anything about it. And that had implications to them. So, yeah, that's just something I'll never forget. Communication is a major component for a successful organization. Um, uh, and communication is paramount in everything we do in an organization. I think communication is really a very key component of being successful. And a lot of the work that I've done, like majority of the work I've done is in change management. We're looking to improve a process, reorganize a department and stuff, and communicating early and often is a key to success, I found. Um, let's see. So, ensuring the workforce is always, ensuring the workforce is aware of expected behavior is fostered by management. And absolutely, I mean, there's times, where, I'd ask, like in performance reviews or, even like, one-on-ones, like, okay, have I pissed anybody off today? Because you know how it is, like you can be going, and I mean that tongue in cheek a little bit, but you can be going about your business and something can happen that maybe you're not even aware of, so you think you're doing everything right, but maybe there's a rule or regulation or an unspoken norm that you just didn't know about. Ensuring the workforce is aware of expected behavior is fostered by management. Absolutely. Many types of cultures are created by a company depending on the values and goals. And with culture is culture is not a project. It's not. Culture is just it's the daily, everyday way the organization will behave. And so it's important that that is something that's always communicated. Companies can ensure ethics through measurements such as culture audits to assess the awareness of the organization's values. That's another thing too is um, there's annual surveys should be like annual surveys of departments and leaders and where the employees will have an opportunity to voice what their thoughts and feelings and opinions are of the management team, if they're doing a good job leading along that cultural line and things. But all this stuff, and I think it's important too, it's all these measures and communications and everything throughout the year, on a cyclical basis that keeps employees grounded and management leading in the right way. Okay, so that's the background. And let's see, instructions. Assume the role of the company CEO. So this is the lens by which you will do the assignment. So assume the role of company CEO. So that'll be you. You have recently discovered and investigated a small number of employees have violated ethical conduct and put the company at risk for social injustice and possible legal ramifications. So, you know, that is where, somebody might have said something to another person. Maybe they made an advancement or tried to get favors, stuff like that. So that is, a person to person type of thing versus, somebody stealing pins out of the supply cabinet. You need the entire company staff to understand the values and ethics the company follows. And it's important. That's important in a couple of ways. Obviously, one, to ensure the company is not getting off the rails, and two, from a legal perspective, where leadership and especially the CEO, they have to act. So they that's one of those things where you have knowledge for something and you don't act on it. Well, you're now in that sphere of influence that could be not good for you. Okay, so keeping in mind the information read in the chapters this week, create a memo to distribute to staff that reminds them of company rules and values. So that's what ultimately the assignment, you got the background, then you're the CEO, and then you're going to create this memo that you need to send out. Let's see here. Okay. You can use, okay, then going on down. You can use a fictitious company or an established company. So, if you want to make one up, cool. If you want to pick one, whatever you like, you don't have to work there. Or if you do work there, that's fine. So at the end of the day, create one or pick one. So the memos include scenario information, brief reminder, confidentially. So scenario information, basically, there was a social injustice, so expound on that, but that will be brief and it's got to be written in a confidential manner, not looking to obviously, spell out or hang to dry the individual who conducted this issue. Company values and ethics, closing comments, name and title. So, you know, um, yeah, scenario information would happen, company values, ethics, closing comments, name and title. Length assignment must be a minimum of 2 pages, excluding any title or reference pages. And then 3 scholarly sources. So, as a reminder, the scholarly sources, what that means is, um, you can't just pick any website and reference it. You cannot obviously use Wikipedia, things like that. It has to be maybe something from, Harvard Business Review, something at a library here at the university. I do allow the book to be considered a resource. So, and then the grading breakdown will be graded on content, critical thinking, the organization of it, writing style, and originality. Um, the critical thinking is such really an important aspect. What I see a lot of times is what is written and submitted is more like definitional based, where you do need a lot of times to define something, but we need to take it to the next aspect and how does this work? How does it play in it? So what's the cause and effect, kind of thing. Okay, and then below I had created example below on because a lot of times too it's like, well, gosh, and if you think about it, you know that's if you think about the truest form of a memo, that's going back a number of years, but still the intent is there on a memorandum meeting, we're going to communicate this to everybody. So you'd have your title page because this is a school assignment. So you're gonna have your APA formatted title page, and then your memo. And I had created this because a lot of times, like, well, what does that really look like? I don't write memos, kind of thing. And memos can look in a lot of different shapes and sizes. So I created this example just as kind of a template. So when you do your assignment, you can at least have a template and have something that it should look like. And then of course, I'll read it for where it hits for the content, critical thinking, and all that. So following the requirements, company name, it's all employees, and then your name, current date. This is actually date. Okay. And then subject reinforcement, company values and ethics standards, and then you want to give a confidential, like I said, confidential kind of synopsis what happened. Then state the company values and ethics, expected behavior, closing comments, and then your name, rank, and serial number, everything. Of course, you'll have your references on your reference page, and that is really the overview of the assignment, and what's due. It's kind of a fun assignment. It's not just like yet another written analysis. So I know students have had fun with this one, but any questions around the assignment?
No, I don't have any questions around the assignment. I do have maybe a question or comment about the lesson.
Okay, yeah, great. We're gonna
Yeah,
close
no,
that.
I was just wondering. We started talking about 60% of the employees might not follow a policy or might not follow the culture. What happens when 80% of the employees just end up being the ones not following the culture or the policy? How do you go back to to fix that once managers, employees are not following what the policy is supposed to be? How do you go back to fix it?
Yeah, and that's a great question. And what I've likened, well, it it can depend on the nature of the company. It can depend on how big the company is. Like when I worked for United Health Group, we had like 300 plus thousand employees all over the world. And I think of that as like a huge ship in the ocean needing to make a turn. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
so it's going to take significantly more planning, but what would be versus maybe a smaller company that can pivot quicker, right? But at the end of the day, no matter what the size of the company is, it needs to be under first, it needs to be detected that, gosh, we have 80% of the folks just out there in the Wild West. And then from there, understanding, the impact. Gosh, what if we just laid everybody off? Because that's always an option, right? Just, well, we're going to lay those people off. Well, resources, your employees are your most, critical assets that you have are the people there. So, it's going to start off one with understanding what's going on, and then the severity, right? So, I mean, if you know if possible, okay, have an understanding of what aren't these 80% of the people doing, from a cultural perspective. Is it minor? Is it major? Is it a certain layer? So I always like to try and understand the data, so if we have an understanding that many people are not following policies and culture and ethics, then like, what are we dealing with? So understanding the data can help you make data driven decisions. If you have maybe a division, maybe the small division in some remote city or something that is, maybe a high contributor to these people that are making these infractions. Well, maybe you close that branch down temporarily, or just replace the whole team. So once you have a good understanding of what the data tells you on that cross section of people, then you can lay out a plan to systematically, I would say, approach it. Maybe it's just a training issue. Maybe these people aren't aware of something. So again, right, understanding what the data is telling you, what the infractions are, then you can set forth a plan to execute on to hopefully correct it, and maybe not have to fire a bunch of people.
Right. Yeah. No, it makes sense. Thank you. That's very good information. I was just wondering, what happens when the owner of the company or maybe the president of the company is the one causing those issues, or building a bad culture for
Yeah.
everybody else.
Well, and that is there's some typicalness in that as well. I mean, like, I've worked for such large companies. A lot of times you come across, department managers, department directors, a leader of a department, who is the bad actor, and the employees are trying to do the right thing, the leadership team's trying to do the right thing, but you got this bad apple that's, derailing things a bit. So, in those instances, if you got, kind of one-off leaders within an organization, then, perhaps the right, the right thing to do is, get rid of that one person who's affecting all these other people. And if you got a CEO or leader of a company, then it's their job. At the end of the day,
Right.
the CEO and owner, it's their job to ultimately set forth a prudent culture and to ensure that everybody knows what the right thing is and that's doing it. So a lot of times in those situations, unfortunately for employees, it's leaving, and finding a place that the leader isn't the bad apple, which, a lot of times as employees, you can't affect too much.
Right.
Mm.
Yeah. Have you ever got have you ever seen or heard of any company that just goes out of business because of not following a good culture, especially the president, CEO, maybe not doing what's ethical, maybe, and just go out of business.
Yeah, I have in my past I have because I for the last good number of years I've worked for such large companies. You can be in the mix of a leader who is not good, and complaints will happen. Hotlines, the some of those surveys. A lot of time on the surveys, though, sometimes people aren't as most forthcoming. But it's one of those things where you don't have a good leader, and you could have been affected by that leader or been close to it. And then, you get a company email that says, so and so has, stepped down from, XYZ position. We wish this person well. They're going to be pursuing other opportunities outside the company. And
Right.
like, yeah, that person really was not good. So we know the undertone to what this memo is really saying.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen I've seen quite a few of those in my day.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah, I've seen those in the news and here and there. Just hear about yeah, somebody stepping down.
yeah.
But yeah.
A lot of times it's a forced step down. It's like where maybe they're caught doing something, but not like breaking the law, but maybe breaking company rules and regulations. And they're just it's like okay, they're forced to step down and basically leave. So
Right.
yeah. Uh,
Okay.
so, but. Really good, yeah, really good questions, and a lot of these things that they can happen quickly or just kind of like mature over time. It's like a bad leak. It's a bad leak, and ultimately it'll wear out what it's leaking on or create dry rot that's got to be removed. So yeah.
Right. Yeah. No, it makes sense. Thank you for the explanation.
Oh yeah, of course. Um, Any other questions that you might have this evening? Or like I said, anything we're covering in class?
No, no, I think it's all clear.
Okay, great. Well, Jose, thank you again so much for showing up tonight, and I appreciate your time. And I will have this video uploaded tomorrow mid-morning sometime. And if you should have any questions or need anything, just shoot me an email, and we'll take it from there.
Great. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Jose. Have a great rest of your evening. Appreciate your time.
You too. Take care.
Okay.
Bye.